Good morning. Thank you for coming to our weekly House Republican Stakeout. I hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving. Welcome back. I wanted to begin with a quote from Thomas Jefferson, who said, quote, "The most sacred of the duties of government is to do equal and impartial justice to all its citizens." In pursuit of that sacred duty, House Republicans have worked tirelessly on behalf of the American people for months to deliver transparency following the money and the facts to uncover what I believe will prove to be one of the largest political corruption scandals of our lifetime and potentially in our nation's history. This impeachment inquiry, led by the chairman here today, Jamie Comer, Jim Jordan, and Jason Smith, continues to provide the American people the answers they both demand and deserve. They have found over $10 million from China, Russia, Ukraine, and Romania funneled through the corrupt influence peddling schemes to line the pockets of the Biden crime family. The DOJ, FBI, and other federal agencies mobilized to play cover-up and attack Biden's leading political opponent, Donald Trump, in a desperate effort to distract from Joe Biden's failings. And Joe Biden has lied continuously to the American people about how he was not only aware of, but was involved with and financially benefited from his family's corrupt influence peddling schemes. Look around this room on these poster boards. The evidence is here, and unlike Joe Biden, the bank records do not lie. The Biden crime family sold out America, and the American people have had enough. And while extreme Democrats pursued a sham impeachment of Donald Trump focused on baseless lies driven by partisan politics, House Republicans have and will continue to follow the facts, uncovering more damning evidence each and every day. This week, the House Republican Conference is unveiling an impeachment inquiry website, providing the public with a one-stop shop for updates from each of our committees and the evidence they are uncovering. It also includes a timeline which lays out exactly what the Biden crime family did to get us to this point. Transparency is the hallmark of America. With each new fact we find, it becomes more clear that Joe Biden is compromised and unfit to lead. I'm honored to pass it over to our chairmen who have worked so hard on their committees on behalf of the American people, and I'm going to start with our Oversight Chairman, Jamie Comer.
Thank you, Elise. Joe Biden has repeatedly lied to the American people about his family's corrupt influence peddling schemes. Our investigation has revealed how Joe Biden knew of, participated in, and benefited from his family cashing in on the Biden name around the world. First, President Biden told the American people he never spoke to his son about his family's business dealings. That was a lie. President Biden spoke by phone, attended dinners, had coffee with his son's foreign business associates. These individuals include Russian and Kazakhstani oligarchs, a Burisma executive, and a Chinese national who funneled millions to his son. President Biden claimed there was an absolute wall between his official government duties as vice president and his family. But there was no such wall. The door was wide open to his family's influence peddling schemes. But Joe Biden allowed his son to catch a ride on Air Force Two at least a dozen times to sell the Biden brand around the world. The National Archives has also identified the Office of Vice President emailed with the Biden family and their businesses over 29,000 times. However, the White House is withholding these emails from Congress in addition to the 82,000 pages of pseudonym emails. 82,000 pages. President Biden claimed his family didn't receive money from China, but we all know they did. President Biden's son, brother, sister-in-law, and daughter-in-law collectively received millions from CCP-linked entities. We've also revealed how Joe Biden received $40,000 in laundered China money in the form of a personal check from his sister-in-law. The White House and corporate media continue to move the goalpost as they seek to cover up for President Biden and his family. But make no mistake, financial records, emails, text messages, and witness testimony reveal that the Biden family enterprise is centered on Joe Biden's political career and connections. Joe Biden knew about, participated, and benefited from these schemes. This is a national security threat at the highest level of government, and Americans demand accountability for the Biden corruption. Over the next 2 months, our committees will interview members of the Biden family and their associates about this record of evidence. We expect full compliance with our lawfully issued subpoenas. No one is above the law, even if your last name is Biden. Our committee will first interview and depose witnesses. We then, of course, would welcome Hunter Biden to testify at a public hearing at a future date. Democrats should have no concern with first deposing and interviewing key witnesses. This is how they conducted their impeachment inquiry of former President Trump and the January 6th committee. President Biden's pattern of lies, corruption, and obstruction demand action from Congress. We will continue to follow the facts and hold President Biden accountable to the American people. It's now my pleasure to introduce the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan.
Thank you, Jamie. This story is as old as time. You have a politician who does certain things. Those actions benefit his family financially, and then there's an effort to sweep it all under the rug. And we know this has happened. The best example is to use the Ukrainian energy company Burisma. 4 key facts. Hunter Biden gets put on the board of Burisma. Fact number 1. Fact number 2. He's not qualified to be on the board. He said so himself in an ABC interview. He said he got the job because of his last name. Fact number 3, the executives at Burisma asked Hunter Biden specifically, will you weigh in with folks in D.C. to help us deal with the pressure we are under? A few days later, Joe Biden gets on a plane, flies to Kyiv, and announces that you will not get the money that was already approved unless you fire the prosecutor who was applying the pressure. That all happens. That all happens, those key facts happen, and those facts are confirmed by some of the evidence we've uncovered already. This 1023 form, where the confidential human source told the FBI, and it was recorded in this form. Those are the key facts, and now it's important. We got a lot of those key facts when we interviewed one of Hunter Biden's business partners, Mr. Archer. It's important we talk to the others. We need to talk to Eric Schwerin. We need to talk to Rob Walker. We need to talk to Tony Bobolinsky. And we're in conversations with their lawyers, and we think those are going to happen. And we need to talk to Jim Biden, who was also in business with Hunter Biden. Those things need to happen. And then, as the chairman just said, as Chairman Comer just said, we will have Hunter Biden in a deposition, and frankly, I think in an open hearing. I think that would be great. That's what needs to happen so the American people get the facts, get the truth, and we can make a decision on how we move forward as a conference. With that, I would recognize the chairman from the Ways and Means Committee, Mr. Smith.
Thank you all for being here today. Thank you, Chair Stefanik, for having us. Most Americans, they work hard to provide for their families. They follow the law, they pay their taxes, but the Biden family has been playing by different rules. 2 brave whistleblowers came forward to expose the political interference impeding an investigation into the tax crimes of the president's son, Hunter Biden. These are serious, credible IRS investigators who risked their career to come forward. Amidst threats from those representing the president's son that anyone prosecuting the case would be committing career suicide. And as one might expect, they provided substantial evidence backing up their testimony that we have reviewed and released over the course of our work to hold government officials accountable. In the days since their initial testimony, we have learned that President Biden wasn't just aware of his son's business dealings. He wasn't just involved, but he appears to have directly benefited from them. This directly contradicts what President Biden said throughout his presidential campaign and while being president. We have learned about what can be described as the International Bank of Joe Biden, a lending scheme that saw special loans to Biden family members repaid with funds from Chinese executives. We have learned about a Hollywood attorney acting as a special benefactor by paying off at least $2 million of Hunter's tax debts in order to keep it out of the press at the beginning of the 2020 campaign. When confronted with this potential campaign finance violation, an assistant U.S. attorney refused to investigate because, quote, she was not personally interested in pursuing it. We have learned that DOJ officials went out of their way to remove the mention of political figure one, aka Joe Biden from search warrants. As Ways and Means Chairman, there are three major aspects that fall into my committee's jurisdiction. First, we need to get to the bottom of what exactly happened at the Department of Justice and the IRS to impede the Hunter Biden investigation. Did Joe Biden use his administration to protect him from the scrutiny? Second, the Biden family appears to have used numerous accounts, transactions, and loans to mask the flow of money. If these loans were in fact legitimate, they should be interest income. There should be interest income reported on tax documents. Was such reported? Third, how did Hunter and his associates move money through the many shell companies that have been identified? Is there tax information that would help explain the complex web the Bidens created? Over the next week, the Ways and Means Committee will take further action to pursue the truth and follow the facts wherever they lead. We will be holding a hearing with the IRS whistleblowers to discuss the investigation as well as releasing additional material that they have provided. The American people expect no less. I am pleased to recognize the great majority whip from the state of Minnesota, Mr. Tom Emmer.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you very much. Robert Gates, who served as defense secretary under President Obama, wrote in his 2014 memoir that Joe Biden has, quote, been wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades. That statement couldn't be more true today. From Biden's disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal to his failure to stand up to the Chinese Communist Party to cutting billion-dollar deals with Iran, his blatant incompetence has been a slap in the face to our allies while emboldening our adversaries. Our House Republican majority was elected to counteract the Biden administration's failed policies, and that's exactly what we're going to continue to do this week. Chairman McCall's No Funds for Iranian Terrorism Act, which will be considered on the floor tomorrow, effectively freezes the $6 billion, the $6 billion ransom payment Biden handed over to Iran. This is a common sense bill that every lawmaker in this building should unequivocally support, Republican and Democrat. If you care about protecting America's national security, extinguishing terrorism, and standing with our troops who have faced relentless attacks from Iran-backed proxies, then a yes vote on this bill should be a no-brainer. Weakness invites aggression, and House Republicans refuse to sit on the sidelines as Biden's disturbing pattern of weakness on the world stage continues to endanger us all. And with that, I turn it over to our Majority Leader, Steve Scalise.
Well, thank you, Whip. As you can see, we have 3 different committees that are relentlessly working to get the facts out about this investigation that's been ongoing for months. The one thing that you can see as a steady, consistent theme, where it started with Jamie Comer's committee, Jim Jordan's committee, ultimately Jason Smith's committee, is that every step of the way, they've been consistently going after the facts to try to find out exactly what happened with all of these web companies, these shell companies, that whistleblowers were coming forward saying it wasn't just about Hunter Biden, that ultimately money was going into Joe Biden's checking account. What you saw at the White House over and over again was a constant changing of the story. The White House has changed its story multiple times as the facts have emerged over and over again, and different, if you look at some of these poster boards, you see checks, you see more facts that continue to be released. And as more facts come out, the White House continues to try to change their tune to cover up what really happened. As Jamie Comer talked about, tens of thousands of pages of alias information still at the White House that they won't turn over to Congress. What are they trying to hide at the White House? Why won't the White House fully comply? So we're going to be relentless at continuing to get the facts, all 3 committees working through this impeachment inquiry to ultimately get the facts out and find out where all this money was coming from, foreign countries, ultimately into the pockets of various members of the Biden family to the tune of millions and millions of dollars. So this will not slow down, and in the meantime, the House will continue to do its work here. As the whip talked about today, we start a process of moving a few bills on the floor this week. Tomorrow, we're going to actually have a vote on that Iran bill. $6 billion Joe Biden negotiated to give to Iran. Now, let's think about what happens here. This was negotiated prior to Hamas invading Israel, murdering Israelis, taking hostages. We see a ceasefire right now as more hostages hopefully get released. But in the meantime, Hamas still holds hostages. Where does Hamas get their funding? They get their funding from Iran. Everybody knows that. The Biden administration knows it, yet the Biden administration opposes this legislation because they want the Ayatollah in Iran to get that $6 billion. Why would Joe Biden want the Ayatollah to have access to $6 billion knowing it goes to fund Hamas and other terrorism? We're going to be taking a strong stand to freeze that money tomorrow. That will be a vote on the House floor. We also say, as more illegals pour into our country, millions more illegals come into our country, they're using federal lands in the Biden administration to house illegals. They're waiving environmental regulations that military veterans can't use, homeless veterans cannot use today, but they'll waive every environmental regulation to allow people coming here illegally to use those very same federal lands. And we're saying you can't use those federal lands to house illegals. That vote will be on the House floor tomorrow as well. So the House is going to continue to do its work as we relentlessly pursue the facts in this case. And leading that effort is our Speaker, Mike Johnson.
Thank you all for being here. These are serious times, and this is a very serious matter. And I've said many times over the last few years, because impeachment has been an issue that we've all become all too familiar with, that next to the declaration of war, you can make an argument that impeachment may be the heaviest power that Congress holds. That constitutional responsibility lies with the House. We have a duty to pursue the facts where they lead. John Adams famously said, "Facts are stubborn things," and you heard a recitation of that here this morning. These facts are alarming. They're alarming to the American people. They are alarming to us. And so while we take no pleasure in the proceedings here, we have a responsibility to do it. We're very proud of the work of these three chairmen that you've seen here, Chairman Comer and Jordan and Smith. They've done an exceptional job in uncovering the obvious corruption. And you've heard it here summarized this morning very succinctly. President Biden and the Biden family. We owe it to the American people to continue this process, but to do it methodically and transparently. Many of you know I'm a lawyer, I'm a constitutional law attorney. I served on President Trump's impeachment defense team twice. And we lamented openly and we decried how the Democrats politicized that process. They were brazenly political in how they brought those meritless impeachment charges against the president. What you're seeing here is exactly the opposite. We are the rule of law team. The Republican Party stands for the rule of law. And the people in charge of this are doing this thoroughly, carefully, methodically. They're investigating and gathering all the facts. And to do this appropriately and to do it in a manner that upholds our constitutional responsibility requires time. It requires a sound process. You don't rush something like this. You can't if you're going to have fidelity to the Constitution. These chairmen are committed to proceeding in that manner. And that's what you're seeing. We've heard from whistleblowers, Biden business associates, legal experts, and now we have reached the point in the investigation that we need to hear from a handful of really key witnesses in this. The chairmen have issued a few dozen subpoenas, and we expect that those are to be complied with in an expeditious manner. We're not prejudging this. We will follow the facts wherever they lead. Again, that's our constitutional duty. And I fully support our chairmen and their efforts, and we'll have a lot more to share on this in the days ahead. We'll take a few questions if you want to do that. Manu, front.
There's also going to be a vote on the House floor tomorrow to expel one of your members, George Santos. You have not said if you support this. Do you support expelling George Santos?
I'll say this. We had a Republican conference meeting in the last hour. There were opinions shared on both sides. I'll answer it this way, Manu. Listen. I said that the Republican Party is the rule of law team, and we are. We believe in the rule of law. There are people of good faith who make an argument, both pro and con, for the expulsion resolution for Santos. There are people who say you have to uphold the rule of law and allow for someone to be convicted in a criminal court before this tough penalty would be exacted on someone. That's been the precedent so far. There are others who say, well, upholding the rule of law requires us to take this step now because some of the things that he's alleged to have done, the House Ethics Committee having done their job, are infractions against the House itself. And so what we've said as the leadership team is we're going to allow people to vote their conscience. I think it's the only appropriate thing we can do. We've not whipped the vote, and we wouldn't. I trust that people will make that decision thoughtfully and in good faith. I personally have real reservations about doing this. I'm concerned about a precedent that may be set for that. So where everybody's working through that, and we'll see how they vote tomorrow. Yep. Front row, and now go here. Yep.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
There are complicated negotiations underway over supplementals. You'll be meeting with Senate Republicans later today. Many questions we could ask, but I want to ask first, do you believe there should be conditions on any aid for Israel? And then what are your priorities or any red lines for border security in such a bill?
Yeah, there's a lot of very deliberate negotiations that have been going on the supplemental, and that happened all the way throughout the Thanksgiving holidays, and it's gone on in earnest, and it will today. I'm going to go visit our Senate Republican colleagues at their steering lunch in a couple of hours, and we'll be talking about that in detail. I'm not going to give you a lot of that detail today because some of those negotiations are going on. I'll tell you, with regard to Israel, the House did our job. We passed a bipartisan support package, $14.5 billion, which is exactly what was requested, and we sent it over to the Senate, and it's been sitting on Chuck Schumer's desk. If they really believe in that priority, they'll take care of it. We added a pay-for, as you all know, and it shocked the system of Washington. We're trying to get back to this fundamental principle of fiscal responsibility. I don't want, and I don't think we should, go and borrow money from some other country to help one of our allies. I think we can take care of our responsibilities, but do it in a responsible manner. And we're trying to reintroduce the idea of fiscal responsibility here. Let me remind everybody here, we have a $33.7 trillion federal debt, I think is the latest figure. If you pull up U.S. debt clock on your smartphone, you can't even follow the debt with a naked eye. It goes up so quickly. Moody's has downgraded our credit rating. The Treasury Department announced a few weeks ago that we have to borrow $1.5 trillion over the next 2 quarters to keep the government in operation. We are not on a sustainable trajectory with regard to spending. And so part of the negotiations on the supplemental, part of the negotiations on the remaining appropriations bills, and everything that's on our plate is viewed by us through that lens, that we have to restore this idea of fiscal sanity. And so we're pressing that matter. With regard to red lines, we believe that the border must be secured. And the vast majority of the people in this country agree with us wholeheartedly. And when we all went home for Thanksgiving and met with constituents and friends and family and had dinner, as you all did, this was a big topic of discussion because people are deeply concerned about their safety and security and all the things, all the societal ills that happen at the border. So that is a top priority for us in all these negotiations, to get that secured, and we need policy changes, not just further funding to process people. So you're going to see that as a continuing theme, and I'll leave it there for now. Hang on just a second. Let me go to the back. Let me go to the back. Yes, yeah.
The official act that was corrupt that Republicans are alleging today is that when he was vice president, Joe Biden pushed for the firing of the Ukrainian prosecutor. And this was the subject of the impeachment of Donald Trump. And you had a lot of State Department officials who came in and said, this wasn't Joe Biden's policy, this was our policy. He didn't do this to benefit his son. He did this because we wanted him to do it. So did they all commit perjury, or are you going to bring them back for more interviews? Why are Republicans just ignoring all that testimony?
No one's ignoring testimony. Let me tell you the top 4 pieces of evidence with regard to the Biden. I just got bullet points here. From 2014 to 2019, Biden family members and their affiliate companies received over $15 million from foreign companies and foreign nationals. These are all facts. Facts are stubborn things. That included Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, Romania, and China. Biden business associates received an additional $9 million. The chairman here have uncovered a lot of facts. President Biden has, of course, lied at least 16 times about his involvement in his family's business schemes. There are at least 22 examples of Joe Biden speaking with or meeting with Hunter Biden's foreign business associates. The Oversight Committee recently released 2 checks. You see the graphics up here today. These checks are to Joe Biden. One is for $40,000 from China, and another is for $200,000 from a now bankrupt healthcare company that his brother James Biden apparently swindled. Listen, this investigation has to continue because, again, as we said, those facts are stubborn things. I'm not going to answer outside questions about this. We let the facts speak for themselves, and I think you're going to see a lot more developments over that in the days ahead. That was our last question. I appreciate it.